with sanctions toward Russia amid this Ukrainian invasion. Joining us now to discuss the very latest, we get to Phil Lipoff. He is in Poland. Our Aaron Katersky on the ground in Ukraine, along with ABC News national security analyst Steve Ganyard. Aaron, let's start with you. You are there in Ukraine as we are seeing Western countries start to impose these penalties. The White House today saying this is, quote, the beginning of an invasion. So is it? And do Ukrainians see it this way?
Well, NATO certainly sees it this way, saying that Russia has now moved from covert attempts to destabilize Ukraine to overt military action. And the question is, I guess, Kira, how far it goes. The U.S. and its allies have been warning that President Putin would look for cover to justify military action. And Putin said a short time ago that he recognized the territorial ambitions of Russia-controlled rebels in eastern Ukraine. So on one hand, you could use military force to push boundaries. But Putin also said something else. He repeated the unsubstantiated claim that Ukraine could become a nuclear power and attack Russia. So he could also justify an advance into this country claiming self-defense. We don't know what he's going to do. Putin said today that he had no ambitions to recreate any kind of Soviet empire or Tsarist empire. But if you listen to his words over the last couple of days, he clearly believes that Ukraine is rightfully part of Russia, and that he believes that the current government here in Ukraine is just an American puppet and is a threat, represents a clear threat to Russian interests.
Covert to overt. Steve, let me take that to you. We heard from President Putin today at a press conference saying the Russian military is ready to support the separatist regions militarily in case of necessity. So what do we make of his comments to that speech? And what is Putin doing here?
That's the real question here, Carrie. Is he going to move to contact with the Ukrainian military? So we know that he has talked about moving military forces. We do see some military forces moving into those rebel-held areas. But the real question is does he allow the rebels to push out into the whole Donbass, which is well beyond the line of the contended line right now? So we're on pins and needles because that would be the real signal that a conflict had been initiated. If the rebels and Russian military pushed into that part of the Donbass that Ukraine still holds, that is probably the initiation of hostilities.
So what do you make of Russia, Steve, saying Ukraine has the nuclear power to attack Russia? Give us a reality check on that.
Yeah, way back when the Soviet Union came down, the U.S. worked very closely with Russia to take away the nuclear weapons that Ukraine had. I think at one point Ukraine was something like the fourth largest nuclear power in the world, and it wasn't because the Ukraine had developed them. It was sort of that the Russians said, here, we're going to put them on Ukrainian soil, and we'll say that they're yours, not ours. So long ago, I think President Clinton was the one who signed the agreement where nukes were brought out of Ukraine, and Ukraine was essentially a non-nuclear country. So the whole question here is, are there enough people there to rehabilitate that nuclear capability? The answer is probably not, but it is something that people understand, and they have had the ability to think about nuclear weapons in the past. But it would be something that Zelensky would be stupid. He would lose all of the support both in the EU, NATO, and the U.S. So it's sort of a bluff on Zelensky's part, but it sure stirred up Mr. Putin, and he continues to harp on it.
Yeah, of course, understandable. That's kind of his M.O. Phil, meanwhile, let's take it to you. I understand Poland is preparing for an influx of refugees now, depending on the scale of this invasion. What could that look like? And is Poland even ready for that, Phil?
Well, it's a great question, Kira, and it's why almost 5,000 members of the 82nd Airborne troops from the U.S. are here in Poland. President Biden has made it very clear that they are not here in any way, shape, or form to fight. But this is why they are here, Kira, and this is what goes to the heart of your question. They are here working with Polish authorities and the military here, at the border trying to figure out what that would look like. If President Putin comes further into Ukraine, let's say a full-scale invasion, Steve's talking about the uncertainty of that. A full-scale invasion would push tens of thousands of Ukrainians to the border, here to Poland, and through. And so part of what our U.S. troops are doing here is trying to figure out your question, what that would look like, and then what they would do if that in fact happened.
And you, of course, just landed there on the ground, working diligently to move forward on getting information, trying to get a feel for what a refugee situation would look like. I mean, what's your gut, Phil? I mean, are they ready for this? Are they prepared for this? Can you sense where you are that they are just on standby for anything at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what they have to be. And I think they're trying to figure out what the sense is here. Our troops with the 82nd Airborne Division are down by the border between Ukraine and Poland. And that is where they're trying to figure out with Polish authorities and the military here what that would look like. Are they going to have to set up camps? Are they going to bring people into towns? What is going to happen? And that's the question. That's why all this uncertainty that Steve's talking about, what President Putin is going to do next, well, it has a very real effect on Poland and this area, NATO ally, of course, because this is exactly where all those people will come as refugees, because as you see on that map, Russian troops surround the other three sides.
Got it. And Steve, Germany's leader announcing it will halt the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. That would have significant effects on Russia and for Europe. Let's delve into that for a minute and just talk about the prices and even the supply and how that would be impacted in those areas.
Yeah, Kara, the Nord Stream 2, what Mr. Schultz halted was the certification. The pipeline is built. It's ready to go. It's ready to be turned on. So this is really an administrative, we're saying we're turning off certification. It doesn't mean that it couldn't be turned back on tomorrow. But obviously this has been something that the U.S. has pushed back on quite a bit since the troubles in Ukraine started. So what happens if Mr. Putin shuts off the gas? Right now he has already decreased the gas that flows through the Ukraine into Europe by 50%. In fact, Ukraine is buying it back from places like Poland. So Mr. Putin could take away about another 7 or 8% of the total natural gas that comes from Russia into Europe. That would be painful, and you would see sort of a doubling of prices within Europe and on the global market as well, because now liquid natural gas is fungible and moved around the world. So if the gas gets turned off in Russia, we will feel it here at home. Not as bad as they will in Europe, but it's going to continue to be a geopolitical negotiating chip. And right now, Mr. Putin has no land to claim. He has nothing to claim for all his efforts, and he has just had the Germans turn off at least the near-term hope of opening the Nord Stream 2 pipeline.
Look, this morning we already saw the Dow take a bit of a tank, and we're already seeing our gas prices increase weekly. So, Steve, what kind of impact do you expect those sanctions that President Biden announces will have, from across the pond to here, and how far could they go?
Kara, sanctions have a very poor track record. They don't work very well. So it's really on the Biden administration to put some sanctions in place. We'll hear from the president very shortly that actually have some bite to them, have some meat. Sanctions tend to be a political salve, a bomb for politicians who said, oh, we did something, but they really don't work. So for them to work and for Mr. Putin to feel the pain, all of those around him, all of those in the Duma, all the oligarchs that essentially control, the elites who control that country, and Mr. Putin himself. You know, in the past, we've never sanctioned Putin, and he has hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars that he's siphoned off from the Russian people. If the president does go after Biden, that will be a sea change. And President Biden did say a couple weeks ago, when he was asked about that he would be willing to directly sanction Putin himself. We'll see. In a few minutes, we'll find out just how tough the administration wants to be and what kind of leverage they will be able to produce.
Yeah, you want to talk about sanctions not working, just look at Iran. There's an example there. Phil, you mentioned the 5,000 troops there in Poland, but they're not expected to be involved in fighting in Ukraine, right?
Absolutely not, Kira. In fact, President Biden has made it a point to go out of his way to say that over and over again. The troops here are to lend support to the Polish military and to people in this area. And what we talked about before, that's going to be their real deal. If refugees come flooding in across the Ukrainian-Poland border, that's when the nearly 5,000 U.S. troops here are going to go into action, and they're going to be really important at that point.
All right, Aaron Katersky, Steve Ganyard, thank you so much.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.